The ragged cliffs of Blackwater Bay, Oregon, gnawed at by the endless Pacific, held a house with a name whispered only in dread, Blackwater House. Perched on the bleakest point, it was a scar against the bruised sky, a monument to a horror to decades old. Everyone knew the story, screamed in tabloid headlines. Blackwater butcher slays 6, bodies found in walls. Silas Crow, the house's reclusive owner, had been caught mid-kill. The dismembered remains of 6 young women bricked into the sub-basement. He'd swallowed cyanide in his cell, leaving a note scrawled in shaking hand. The house remembers. The work continues. Now, it belonged to Chase and Harper Beckett, not dreamers, but sharp, ambitious true crime podcasters. They saw dollar signs in the dread. Their project, Crow's Nest, a true crime immersion experience. Ghost stories were for amateurs. They dealt in cold, hard evidence and the monstrous logic of human evil. Their grand opening was just days away. Harper knelt in the grand, wood-paneled dining room, Silas Crow's old domain. She adjusted a sensitive parabolic microphone, hoping to catch phantom whispers. Chase wrestled with a fisheye security camera above the massive, scarred oak table. Harper, look. Chase's voice was tight, stripped of its usual smooth confidence. He pointed. On the wide plank floor, right where Crow's heavy chair would have stood, was a stain. Not large, dinner plate sized, but deeply wrong. Arterial crimson, thick like clotting blood. It glistened weightily in the weak grey light, seeming fresh, like it had welled up from the wood itself. Harper snapped on nitrile gloves, pushing down a sudden chill. Wet. It hasn't rained. We stripped these floors bare, sanded them raw, hit them with luminol, UV, everything, nothing. She knelt, her knee popping. She touched the stain. Cool, unnervingly thick. She lifted her finger. A string of the stuff stretched before snapping. She sniffed cautiously. The coppery tang of blood, undercut by a sharp, chemical stink, like strong cleaner or formaldehyde. Impossible. This wasn't here last night. Chase filmed with his DSLR. The shutter clicked loud. High-grade stage blood, to organic smelling. Old sealant reacting. Doubt etched his face. They'd been over every inch, twice. Their anger wasn't fear. It was professional outrage, a flaw in their curated nightmare. We can't have random biohazards, Chase muttered. It ruins the controlled story. Guests pay for our horror. Harper grabbed her biohazard kit. She sprayed the stain liberally with enzyme cleaner designed to destroy blood proteins and DNA. There. Authentic cleanup. Let's see that come back. She scrubbed hard, the chemical scent briefly winning. The crimson smear faded, leaving only a damp patch. It came back, not the next day, but the day after. Locked room, secured windows, motion sensors armed, yet there it was, not crimson, but a sickly, putrid yellow-green, like infected bile. It seemed to pulse faintly. Harper recoiled. Chase filmed obsessively, his doubt turning to morbid excitement. The colors shift, unnatural, like accelerated rot. It became their grim ritual. Over coffee in the old avocado green kitchen, they bet $20 it's bruised purple tomorrow, Chase said, trying for lightness. Harper, pale, stirred her coffee. No. Tar black. The stain was their gruesome roulette wheel, their curiosity slowly smothering unease. Only their intern, Skylar Reed, a quiet local girl, hired for her knowledge of Blackwater Bay's dark past, seemed truly scared. She avoided the dining room, seeing the yellow-green stain. She choked, knuckles white on the door frame. It's wrong, she whispered, voice thin. It doesn't just look bad. It feels hungry. Silas Crow's second warning wasn't a moan, it was violence. A brutal crunch THUD shook the house at 3:17 a.m., rattling antique glass. It felt like the foundation was kicked. The sound came from the sub-basement, a level below the main cellar, behind a heavy, rusted steel door Chase thought was sealed forever. That door, thick as a tank's, now lay flat on the damp concrete, its huge hinges torn apart. Sitting neatly on moldy crates was a single object. A long, wicked meat cleaver, its edge cruel and sharp. The air stank of blood and the sharp tang of ozone. Chase, adrenaline pumping, drew his licensed Glock 19. Identify yourself. Private property. His voice was a rasp. He swept his flashlight beam wildly. Harper stood beside him, her own powerful beam cutting the dark, revealing only crumbling brick and rusted pipes. A low, wet chuckle vibrated from the stones. Then a voice scraped, thick with phlegm and hate. Cleaning requires proper tools. The temperature plunged. Their breath plumed white. The flashlight beams dimmed, choked by the sudden dark. Then, silence. Only the bone-deep cold remained. Back in the main hall, Under a dusty stuffed raven, Chase tried to regain control. He thumbed on a high-frequency speaker array meant for rodents, but he hoped it disrupted ghosts. He puffed out his chest. "Show yourself, Crow. Your reign is over. We own this house. Your ghost stories don't scare us." The answer wasn't laughter. It was physical pain. A deep thrum vibrated their teeth, rattling their skulls. Then an ear-splitting, metallic screech like 1,000 nails on a chalkboard through a dying jet engine. It wasn't just heard, it hurt. A wave of sonic nausea. Harper cried out, hands over ears. Chase staggered. The speakers on his belt overloaded, with a sharp pop and shower of sparks. Harper, terror fueling her practicality, yanked an M pump from her kit, meant to disrupt electronic voice recordings. She triggered it towards the screech's source, near the broken grandfather clock. "Try haunting this, you relic." The screech cut off. A shocked, wet gasp echoed, then faded. The crushing presence vanished, leaving only ozone, burnt plastic, and ringing silence. In the dying sparks, Chase saw it. A ripple in the air near the clock. Not heat haze, but a patch of absolute, sucking cold that made his neck hairs stand up. Then it was gone. Silas Crow retreated to the bricked-up space, behind the dead furnace in the sub-basement, his anchor. Humiliation burned like acid. Those vermin, turning his power into content. Ripping off that door had taken pure rage, yet they countered him with sound and electricity. His ancient fury, wild with a chilling new feeling. Obsolescence. His methods felt old. He needed modern terror. He needed to speak their language. He festered 4 days, a cold spot in the furnace crypt, emerging only to renew the stain, pouring his rage into its shifting colors. Deep purple like a bruise, startling toxic orange. He planned his big return for the anniversary of his arrest, Friday, October 17th. No moans. A broadcast. He'd hijack their server, flood the house with the victim's final, terror-etched screams. At the same time, he'd manifest as a flickering collage of his victims' dying moments. Bulging eyes, torn throats, in every mirror, window, even the toaster. He'd drown them in the symphony of their own morbid hunger. That Friday, a legendary Pacific storm hit Blackwater Bay. Perfect. Wine shrieked like the lost women. Rain lashed like frantic fingernails. Thick fog swallowed the lighthouse beam. Crow gathered in the basement server room, a converted coal bin humming with tech. He reached spectral tendrils towards the blinking machines, seeking the digital paths of ones and zeros that carried their voices. He never touched them. Standing between him and the server rack was a figure, not human, not alive, not spirit. It wore a see-through, shimmering copy of his own blood-stained butcher's apron. Its head was a flickering hologram. Chase Beckett's face, stretched into an impossible, wide rictus grin, eyes replaced by pulsing red camera lenses. Digital flames, not fire but corrupted, staticky pixels, licked from a gaping maw emitting a low, broken modem buzz. In one hand, a shimmering, pixelated meat cleaver, projected on its chest, a glowing, shifting QR code. Crow recoiled, spectral form rippling. A digital ghost, born of their machines. It was an insult, a mockery. A low, electronic growl came from the figure. Crow, master of bone-deep, blood-hot horror, felt a terror he hadn't known since the police lights. The terror of being replaced by a cheap trick. He fled, essence fraying, back to the furnace crypt. The cold air felt weak. Old pride stirred, the Blackwater butcher's pride. By dawn, a corrosive plan formed. This digital thing, maybe it could be used. An alliance. Two terrors were better than one against those defiling his legacy. He'd offer it a share of the fear. He found the figure near the server room door, but the hologram was dark, dead. The cleaver was a cheap plastic prop from their gift shop, lying on the floor. The apron was a stained cleaning rag. The QR code, printed on flimsy card, was taped to a mop handle. Crow scanned it with his non-corporeal awareness. It led to a bright, animated page on the B&B site. Your Blackwater hosts, Chase and Harper Beckett, providing authentic terror since 2024. Beware imitations. Our scares are guaranteed original. The trap was advertising. They'd used his dread, siphoned from the stones, and his victim's agony, to power a cheap projector and spook him with their branded show. He'd been reduced to a jump scare. The cold fury that silenced 6 screams erupted into an inferno. This demanded blood, hot, mortal blood. He materialized fully in the storm-lashed dining room. the stain beneath him bubbling like tar. He raised the real, heavy cleaver from the sub-basement, gripped impossibly in his half-seen hand. The storm raged outside. He focused his entire hate, drawing on the trapped agony in the stones, the terror in the plaster, the silent screams of the bricked-up dead. He pointed the cleaver towards the ceiling, towards the Beckett's rooms, by the silence of the buried and the salt in the wounds. His voice, a guttural rasp amplified by the storm, shook the house. Paint chips fell like snow. When the beacon sweeps this accursed point twice without the shroud, blood shall flow anew. Murder walks. This house feeds. Below the cliffs, piercing the fog and rain, the Blackwater lighthouse beam activated. Hoomph. The powerful light swept across the dining room window, lighting Crow's grim shape and the bubbling, black stain. Hoomph. It swept past. He waited, crackling with violence, for the second sweep. The beam cycled. Hoomph. Silence followed the light. Then, nothing. Utter darkness. The beam didn't return. Crow stared at the window, frozen. The rhythmic hoomph, hoomph had stopped. The light stayed dead. A choked sound escaped him, fury mixed with bewildered despair. Had they tampered with the lighthouse? Could they control even that? At 7:30 a.m., a diesel engine and slamming van doors broke the quiet. The cleaning crew, defeated by technology and the boring world of business, Crow dissolved back into the weeping walls, the real cleaver clattering onto the floor beside the now pitch-black stain. His bloody oath hung in the air, made foolish by a dead bulb or a Coast Guard schedule he couldn't grasp. Days passed. The stain remained, black, thick, cold as deep ocean water, seeming denser, swallowing light. The Becketts, pumped by the successful hologram test, though Chase couldn't explain the huge power drain that blew fuses, prepped for their first guests, for edgy true crime bloggers with big followings. Skylar worked silently in the dusty study, turned archive, poring over old microfiche and police reports. Her eyes were shadowed and hollow. She gave the black stain a wide berth, like it was poison. The bloggers arrived on a clear, bitingly cold night. Dinner in the grand dining room was a macabre show. They sat around the massive table, the black stain a dark centerpiece under flickering fake candles. Chase told Crow's crimes with chilling drama, adding details. Harper served blackberry hemorrhage sangria in dusty crystal. Nervous laughter echoed to loud. Skylar moved like a ghost herself, clearing plates, her hands shaking near the stain. Later, the bloggers buzzed with adrenaline and sangria as they went to their themed rooms, the victim's view, the butcher's lair. Chase watched the security feeds in the control room, the old pantry. Harper checked audiographs. Spikes are low, she said, popping an IPA. Just wind, groaning pipes, and loud snoring. Our ghosts retired, she grinned, patting the M-pump on the desk. In room 3, the widow's walk. Darren Jeffries couldn't sleep. The stories, the atmosphere, the smell of dust and damp. It worked too well. His nerves were shot. He wanted something real. He decided to sneak down for a close look at the stain, maybe get a creepy shot for his followers. The house was silent except for the old wood groaning. He crept down the grand stairs, the warm wood cold under his socks, his phone flashlight bobbing weakly. The black stain in the dining room seemed deeper in the dark, almost liquid. As he crouched, phone aimed low, a different light cut through the bay windows. The lighthouse beam, hoomph, it swept across the room, startlingly bright after days of darkness, lighting the wood grain, dancing dust motes, and the stain with harsh clarity. Darren jumped, then laughed nervously. Hey, killer atmosphere. Beckett's, literally. Hoomph. The beam swept again, right on time. Darren steadied his phone and snapped a picture of the stain under the moving light. He looked at the screen, zooming in. The stain looked back. It wasn't just black anymore. Under the lighthouse's pitiless glare, shapes swirled in its tar-like depths, pale, indistinct, horrifyingly alive, like faces pressed against the underside of thin ice, mouths stretched wide in silent screams, and the edges, were they creeping? Very slowly, almost too slow to see. Inching toward the toe of his sock, a wave of nausea hit him, thick and chemical, that same sharp, coppery smell magnified 100 times. It wasn't fear, it was a sickening, physical wrongness that cramped his stomach and coated his tongue. He stumbled back, the flashlight beam shaking wildly. The silent faces in the blackness seemed to turn, following his movement. One pale, bloated shape pressed closer to the surface, its empty eyes fixed on his. The creeping edge of the stain touched the very tip of his sock. It felt like ice, and something else, a faint, impossible pull.